All right, guys, so now we're going to look at the web audio API. So HTML5 has an audio element that we can use, and there's a JavaScript API that allows us to control that audio. We can play, pause, stop, we can get the wherever the timestamp is, we can change the volume, so we can do all kinds of stuff. Now, in addition to controlling the audio, as far as playing and pausing and all that, you can also create an audio context and add filters. You can create like oscillators and all types of stuff that I really don't understand. I'm not an audio engineer, so we're not going to really get into the advanced stuff like filters and all that. That's really niche. But I do want to show you how we can create our own interface. So I'll show you the basics in this video, just creating some ugly looking buttons that will play, pause, stop, and so on. And then in the next video, we'll create a really nice looking music player that has some animation and stuff. All right, so the file that I'm using here is called summer.mp3. It's just some free music. So if you want to use that, it's in the sandbox files, or you can use something else. Now in our HTML, we're going to have to edit this a little bit. So we're going to get rid of the H1 here, and let's add in our audio element. And it's going to take in a source just like an image, and we're going to point to summer.mp3. Now if I save this, we're not going to see anything on the screen. By default, it doesn't show any kind of player or controls or anything because we create that ourselves. Now, if all you're looking to do is simply embed a default kind of, audio player, you can add the attribute here of controls. So if I do that, now we have a player. I can play it, I can pause it, I can move around and stuff like that, but we don't have any other control. We can't customize this. So what you would do is just not put in controls and then create your own interface and use JavaScript to do everything. So that's what we're going to do, and we're just going to create some basic buttons for now. So we'll say button, I'll give it an ID of play, and we'll say play, and then we'll just copy that down a few times. So I want to be able to play, pause, and stop. So stop. And then in addition to that, I want to show you how we can get the time of the, where it's at in the audio file. So we'll have a div with current-time as the ID. And then finally, I want to show you how we can change the volume. So let's have an input with the type of range. And we don't need a name. The ID, we'll give it volume. Now this needs to be between 0 and 1. So what we'll do is set a min. Let's set a min of 0 and a max of 1, and then step. So each time we, move the range slider, it's going to be 0.01. And let's do a default value of, let's say 1. It'll be turned up all the way by default. All right, so if I save that, we have a very ugly looking interface. But what's cool is you could use CSS and you can make this look however you want. All right, you could have it be like a picture of a boombox with play buttons and stuff. So whatever you like, all kinds of animation and stuff like that. So let's go into our script and let's just bring everything in. So we want the audio element itself. So say document.getElement by D. And I don't think I gave it an ID, so let's just do that real quick. So right here, we'll say ID equals audio. All right, and then we also want to bring in the buttons. So first we have the play button. So we'll call this play. And then let's grab this and this, pause, and this, and this. What else do we have? Stop. And then we want the current time. And I'm actually going to, this over here is going to be current dash time. That's the ID. And of course, this is not current tone. And then the last thing we need, let's see, what did I forget here? So the last thing we want is the volume. So that has an ID of volume. All right. So now we brought everything in. So let's take the play button and let's add an event listener to it. And we're going to listen for a click event. When that happens, we'll fire off a function. And all we're going to do is take the audio element that I brought in and call the play method. So it's as easy as that. So now, if I click play, it'll start playing. None of the other buttons work, obviously. It's just play, so I just reloaded it to stop it. But if we want to pause, we do the same thing. We have a pause method on the audio object. Okay, so now I can play and pause. Now to stop is a little different because there is no audio.stop. So for that, let's say when we click the stop button, instead of just running this directly in one line, we're going to have some curly braces, and we want to pause it, right? And then we can just reset the time. So we can do that by, on the audio object, we can take the current time property and set it to 0. So that will be our stop. So now if I play, stop, and if I play again, it'll be at the beginning. All right, if I pause, it's not. It just stops and picks up where it's. All right, so now we have play, pause, stop. Now for the current time, what we're going to do is listen on the audio element. We're going to add an event listener and listen for time update. And when that happens, we're going to fire off a function, and then we're going to set the current time div. We'll set the inner text to the audio element's current time. So now when I play, you can see the time, and when I pause, it just pauses. I can continue, but if I stop, it goes back to 0. All right, and then the last thing is the volume. So let's say volume dot add event listener, and that's a range. So we want to listen for a change event, and then we'll fire off a function, and all we want to do is take the audio volume and set it to the volume slider, or the volume element's value, which is between 0 and 1. Now, I don't know if this works for you guys because you're hearing my system sounds, but it turns down for me, and it should for you as well. All right, so that's pretty much it as far as the basics of how this works. In the next video, we're going to create a music player, and this is actually from my 50 projects in 50 days course. It's in that course we do like the HTML and CSS and stuff. We're not going to worry about that. I just want to focus on the JavaScript. So we're going to do that next.